Welcome back to another insane criminal file, my friends. Buckle up because the story that I bring you today seems like something out of the movie The Castaway. Imagine this: you are out sailing with your mom, heading into the dark Atlantic Ocean at night. Just the two of you, no crew, no witnesses. A few hours later, something goes wrong.
Nathan, this is United States Coast Guard Boston. Over.
Mom and I, two people, myself and my mom, were fishing, and there was a funny noise in the engine compartment. I looked and saw a lot of water. The boat just dropped out from under my feet. When I saw the life raft, I did not see my mom. Have you found her?
8 days later, you are rescued, floating in a raft, surprisingly calm, well fed, barely sunburned. And everyone starts wondering, how did you survive when your mother didn't? A millionaire real estate empire, a family split by greed, tragedy, and suspicion, a son accused of killing his own mother at sea, and possibly his grandfather years before. What really happened that night off the coast of Rhode Island? Was it a tragic accident or a calculated move for millions? This is the story of Nathan Carman, the Vermont man whose tale began as a maritime mystery and unraveled into one of the most bizarre, cold-blooded family crimes in modern America. As always, before we dig in, I upload true crime breakdowns once or twice a week. So talking about that, do your grandpa a favor and hit that subscribe button. So today's story brings us to Connecticut, and it moves to different parts of the US, as you will see. Nathan Carman was born in 1994 to Linda and Clark Carman. His mother's side of the family came from enormous wealth. His maternal grandfather, John Chakalos, was a billionaire real estate developer, known for building luxury retirement communities across New England. John adored Nathan, calling him his first grandson, showering him with money, attention, and gifts. Among many cousins, Nathan was the golden boy, but behind the picture-perfect image, things were far from normal. Nathan was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, formerly known as Asperger's, at a young age. Social interactions were hard for him. He often struggled to make friends, and classmates described him as quiet, polite, but deeply isolated. Teachers said he had an almost obsessive focus on projects, boats, guns, and mechanics being his favorite topics. His family moved frequently between Vernon, Vermont, Cheshire County, New Hampshire, and Middletown, trying to find better schools and more stability. But home life wasn't easy either. Linda and Clark divorced when Nathan was still a child. And from then on, Nathan lived mostly with his mother. Those who knew them said the relationship was strained. Linda confided to relatives that Nathan pretty much hated her. He rarely spoke to her, and she often had no idea where he was or what he was doing. At one point, she even tried to have him committed to a mental health facility, saying she didn't know how to handle his emotional breakdowns and erratic behavior. Nathan, meanwhile, poured his affection into the only companion he truly trusted, his horse, Cruz. When Cruz died around Christmas 2010, those close to the family said it shattered Nathan emotionally.
Cruz and Nathan had a very tight bond. It was definitely his best friend, his confidant. I went to the stable once with Linda and Nathan. We were ready to leave the stable. I said, well, where's Nathan? Go on in and get Nathan. She's like, no, Nathan loves to spend time with Cruz alone before we leave. And he was there for probably a good half hour, if not longer, just spending time with Cruz in his stall.
One more fracture in an already fragile young man. Piling up to all the situations between Nathan and his mom. When he was just a teenager, Nathan actually disappeared for days in 2011. Police across several states were searching, his parents were desperate, and over 2,000 people joined a Facebook group called Find Nathan Carman. Then, late one night on the 16th of August, police in Sussex County, Virginia found him alive, unharmed, sleeping near an old store with a small motorized scooter and two pictures of himself with his beloved horse Cruz, who had recently died. He told deputies he was on his way to Florida trying to find somewhere safe to stay. It was a haunting glimpse into a lonely mind, a young man drifting further away from reality, and maybe the first sign of the darkness that would later consume everything around him. John brought him into his real estate business, taught him about construction, and gave him generous amounts of money to support his hobbies. But that relationship, while loving, created even more tension between Linda and her father. Family friends described John as manipulative, using money and access to Nathan as a way to control his daughter. Still, Nathan idolized his grandfather, the one man he believed truly understood him. On the morning of the 20th of December, 2013, police were called to John Chakalos' mansion in Windsor, Connecticut. The 87-year-old millionaire was found dead in his bed.
Okay, what's your question?
I came to check on my father to pick him up for an activity. He is in bed and someone shot him in the head.
Is he still alive?
I don't think so. I walked into the bedroom and there's blood all over the back wall.
There was no sign of forced entry, no theft, just silent gunshots. From the start, investigators suspected the killer was someone close to him. Wealth, inheritance, and family tension quickly became the center of attention. At first, suspicion turned toward Linda. Her relationship with her father had been rocky, and family members knew about their ongoing disputes. Then came an odd twist. During police interviews, Nathan volunteered strange details, even mentioning that his grandfather might have had a younger mistress. Detectives checked the tip, even reviewed CCTV footage showing Chakalos with a younger woman the night before he died. But she was cleared completely.
My grandfather was the closest person to me. He was like a father to me. And I know I was like a son to him.
Early Friday morning in Windsor, Connecticut, 87-year-old John Chakalos was found dead from an apparent gunshot wound to the head.
When investigators searched for the murder weapon, they noticed something odd. There were no shell casings at the scene. The shooter had likely cleaned up after himself, but during the autopsy, they recovered bullet fragments, and those fragments matched a .308 caliber 6-hour rifle. After canvassing hundreds of gun shops, nearly 600 dealers, investigators eventually traced the sale of that exact weapon back to Nathan Carman. When questioned, Nathan didn't deny buying the gun, but claimed he had lost it, or maybe it had been stolen. But that missing rifle wasn't the only thing pointing straight back to Nathan Carman, not even close. When investigators went over John Chakalos' home again, they noticed something odd. The main entrance glass pane was shattered. At first glance, it looked like a forced entry, maybe a robbery gone wrong. But when crime scene techs examined it closer, they realized something strange. The glass was broken from the inside. It was a setup, a staged break-in designed to look like someone had forced their way in. Meanwhile, detectives pulled surveillance footage from Nathan's neighborhood. Cameras showed him leaving his apartment just after 2 a.m. and returning a little after 4 a.m., a window of time that matched perfectly with when police believed John Chakalos was killed. That meant Nathan wasn't home, he was somewhere else, and investigators now had to consider a chilling possibility that he had driven through the night to murder his own grandfather. Still, with no eyewitnesses, no murder weapon, and a family torn between grief and denial, the case eventually went cold. No charges were ever filed, but the seed of suspicion was planted and it would never really go away. So, by this point, things between Linda and Nathan Carman were tense. Actually, tense might be an understatement. Their relationship had been rocky for years. Therapy, shouting matches, long stretches without speaking. But somehow, they still had this one shared ritual: fishing trips. It was their version of peace. Heading out on the water, away from everyone else, pretending for a few hours that they were just a normal mom and son again. Nathan had even bought himself a little boat, a 31-foot aluminum vessel he proudly named Chickenpox. Weird name, sure, but to him, it was freedom. On the 17th of September 2016, the pair launched from Point Judith, Rhode Island, for what Linda described to friends as a short overnight trip. The plan was simple: sail out toward Block Island, fish a while, and be back by morning. But somewhere along the way, they drifted much farther, all the way to Block Canyon, a remote stretch of ocean, roughly 100 miles offshore, a place with trenches so deep they call it the Grand Canyon of the Atlantic. Before leaving, Linda texted a close friend, like she always did, letting her know they were headed out. She even joked that if she didn't check in by sunrise, her friend should send the Coast Guard. Hours later, that message would become the clue that started everything. Because when the sun came up the next day, there was no call, no text, no, we are back safe. Linda Carman and her son Nathan had vanished. Within hours, the US Coast Guard launched a massive search. Planes, boats, helicopters, covering hundreds of square miles of ocean. Nothing. No debris, no distress signal. Not even a life jacket.
Search for a missing Connecticut family covers the area from Point Judith, Rhode Island, all the way to south of Long Island.
That mother and son have not been heard from since.
10:54 was the last one. Leaving dock shortly. Be in contact by 9 a.m. Hope you're having a good weekend. Could have, had motor problems. I don't know.
If you see that boat, the chicken pox, or any sign of Linda or Nathan, call the Coast Guard.
The search was officially called off. They did everything they could, went as far as searching 64,000 nautical miles. At that point, both were presumed lost at sea. But then, 8 days after they vanished, a freighter called the Orient Lucky, crossing the Atlantic, spotted something orange floating in open water, a life raft. Inside was Nathan Carman, alive, calm, and oddly well for someone who had supposedly been drifting for more than a week. He didn't look starved, didn't look sunburned, didn't look dehydrated. And most important of all, his mother was nowhere to be found. When rescuers asked what happened, Nathan said the chicken pox suddenly took on water and sank in seconds.
Nathan, this is United States Coast Guard Boston. Over.
Mom and I, two people, myself and my mom, were fishing, and there was a funny noise in the engine compartment. I looked and saw a lot of water. The boat just dropped out from under my feet. When I saw the life raft, I did not see my mom. Have you found her?
He claimed he never saw his mom again, but investigators, the Coast Guard, and the public would soon start asking the same question. Was this really a tragic accident or something far darker? Nathan went on to give interviews about what happened that night. The fishing trip gone wrong, the days at sea, the miracle rescue.
I feel healthy. I feel healthy. Emotionally, I've been through a huge amount.
He's lost a little weight, but other than that, he's doing well.
But something just didn't sit right. People didn't buy it. Not his neighbors, not investigators, not even his own family. After Linda Carman's disappearance in 2016, suspicion toward Nathan grew quickly. Not only because of the inconsistencies in his story, but because of the enormous fortune waiting behind it. When John Chakalos was murdered in 2013, that fortune was meant to be divided among his 4 daughters. But when Linda disappeared and was presumed dead, her share, roughly $7 million, would have gone straight to Nathan, and that's when the family said, absolutely not. John's other daughters, Nathan's aunts, filed a civil lawsuit to block Nathan from ever touching a penny of the inheritance. They invoked what's called the Slayer Rule, a legal principle that says you cannot profit from a crime. If Nathan had killed his grandfather or his mother, he would be legally barred from inheriting anything. In their filings, Nathan's aunts laid out some deeply disturbing evidence, ballistics evidence, linking Nathan to the rifle that killed his grandfather. The .308 caliber 6-hour rifle Nathan had purchased months before the murder and later claimed he had lost. The staged break-in at John's home, which investigators determined was broken from the inside. Surveillance showing Nathan leaving his apartment during the exact window when his grandfather was killed.
We're saying that the issues at trial are not just did Nathan kill his grandfather or did he not, but also did Nathan kill his mother or did he not? Do we not first need to figure out legally whether or not my mom is considered to be deceased? What's the manner of death? My concern, it's not the money. It's not so much even my freedom as it is my reputation and seeing that I have a future.
Then, after the fishing trip and Linda's disappearance, Nathan did something that made investigators' jaws drop. He filed an insurance claim for his boat, $85,000. Nathan told that the chickenpox had sunk due to a mechanical failure.
This trial is focused solely on the insurance policy on Carman's boat.
Nathan Carman unexpectedly breaking his silence in his civil trial against the insurance company for his boat, the Chickenpox, which is believed to have sunk somewhere off the New England coast in September of 2016, with his mother on board.
This isn't about money. It's an $85,000 claim. It's a contingency fee. I get a fraction of that if I win. I've put lots of time, effort, and frankly, a lot of misery into this. I almost feel like I have a responsibility to my mom to make sure that the truth comes out.
Both US denied his claim, saying he had intentionally made the vessel unseaworthy. So Nathan did what any totally innocent man would do. He sued the insurance company. By 2018, the insurer had countersued, accusing Nathan of fraud. Court filings revealed reconstruction reports, Coast Guard testimony, and Nathan's own modifications proving that chickenpox was a disaster waiting to happen. A federal judge dismissed Nathan's lawsuit entirely, ruling that the boat was unsafe to sail and that any reasonable person, quote, would have known these modifications would compromise the vessel's integrity. That case turned out to be a tipping point. Investigators now had access to sworn statements and discovery materials that contradicted nearly everything Nathan had said about that night. And they weren't the only ones taking notes. That same year, a New Hampshire probate court found probable cause that Nathan had been responsible for his grandfather's death.
In 2018, his family sued him in connection to the death, but Nathan maintained his innocence.
I have no idea who killed my grandfather. I know that I did not.
And formally barred him from inheriting his mother's portion of the Chakalos estate. It wasn't a criminal conviction, but it was enough to legally cut Nathan off from the family fortune. By 2022, the walls had completely closed in. A federal grand jury indicted Nathan on charges of murder on the high seas for his mother's death and fraud for the inheritance scheme. The indictment alleged that Nathan had killed his mother for the purpose of obtaining money and property from the estate of his grandfather.
Do you have anything to say? Any reaction to the charges?
I'm guilty.
Nathan Carman just arrived in court, and you could hear there how he answered Beth Germano's question, yelling back to her, not guilty. Carman is about 30 minutes away from facing a judge in Vermont on a murder charge. Police arrested him yesterday for allegedly killing his mother during a fishing trip in 2016.
But before the case could even go to trial, before a jury could decide whether Nathan Carman was a cold-blooded killer or a misunderstood son, the story took one final twist. On the 15th of June, 2023, Nathan was found dead in his jail cell in Keene, New Hampshire. Officials ruled it suicide.
My reaction is, it's just, I'm numb.
Nathan Carman's lawyers were blindsided by their client's death. The 29-year-old found dead alone in his cell overnight.
I spoke with him last night for an hour. He was in fine spirits. We were very encouraged. We had action items that we were going to address today.
Carman was just months away from standing trial for the murder of his mother.
And with that, the criminal case, one that spanned a decade, 2 mysterious deaths, and millions of dollars, was closed for good. In the end, the story of Nathan Carman feels more like a crime, and less like a tragedy that swallowed everyone it touched. A family shattered, a fortune cursed, and a man, quiet, withdrawn, intelligent. Standing at the center of it all. Was Nathan a cold and calculated killer, willing to destroy his own bloodline for money? Or was he a broken soul, misunderstood, haunted by trauma, spiraling deeper into isolation and paranoia until there was no way out?
That's not true.
Let me know in the comments below, and until next Insane Criminal File. Thanks for watching.